Okay, good morning. Today we'll deal with the topic vocoids and contoids. In the last class, we learned about syllable and we learned that a syllable is a unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound. It can have consonants. It need not have consonants also, but it is the vowel that is the nucleus of a syllable. So if there is a syllable and there is no syllable without a vowel. So sometimes a syllable can be just a vowel sound without any consonants, right? For example, when you have the word I, E-Y-E, when you transcribe that into the phonetic script, we just show the diphthong I. So it is a syllable without any consonant. Sometimes we have consonants before the vowel, sometimes we have consonants after the vowel, sometimes we have consonants both before and after the vowel. Consonants are just the marginal elements and the vowel is the nucleus. And the consonants that come before the vowel sound in a syllable, they are called releasing consonants, or we call them onset. And the consonants that come at the end of a vowel sound are called arresting consonants, or we call them coda. Okay, now we come to something called vocoids and contoids. So I told you it is the vowel that is the nucleus of a syllable, right? But sometimes, we have certain consonants like L or M or N, which function as the nucleus of a syllable. They are called syllabic consonants. Usually, consonants are non-syllabic, right? They are marginal elements, they are non-syllabic. It is the vowel that is syllabic, right? But sometimes these particular consonants, M, N, L. M is a bilabial nasal sound, a voiced bilabial nasal. N is a voiced alveolar nasal. And L is a voiced alveolar lateral. Now these three sounds, M, N, L, sometimes act as the nucleus of a syllable and they are called syllabic consonants or contoids. Contoids. They are called syllabic consonants. Usually consonants are non-syllabic. But here we have M, N, L acting as the nucleus of a syllable. So they are called syllabic consonants or contoids. For example, when you have a word like mutton, M-U-T-T-O-N, mutton, right? So when you transcribe it, it is M, A, T, N. M, A as in cut. M, A, T, N. So it's mutton, right? So there are two syllables, and in the second syllable, the consonant is T and N is a syllabic consonant. It acts like a nucleus and it is called a contoid. So you have a word like little, L-I-T-T-L-E, little. L-E-T-L. So again, in the first syllable, you have L and E. E is the vowel. In the second syllable, you have T and L. T and L are both consonants, but in this particular syllable, L has got a syllabic quality. It acts like the nucleus, and hence it is called a contoid. You have words like autumn, button, kettle, etc. Right? So these are all in these particular words. M, N, L act as they've got the syllabic quality to it. They act as the nucleus of a syllable, and they are called contoids, right? They are called contoids. So this tendency of certain sounds that belong to one category to function like those of another category is what made the linguist K.L. Pike to give the name contoid, and we also have vocoid. So contoid is the name that is given to consonants which act as vowels, right? And vocoid is the name that is given to vowels that act as consonants. So we are coming to that. So we have when we have, like, when we have a vowel in a syllable, the vowel sound is called a syllabic vocoid. Don't worry. When you have a vowel in a syllable, just imagine you have a syllable, and in that syllable, the nucleus is the vowel, right? And such vowels are called syllabic vocoids. For example, you have a word like pet. In a word like pet, p, a, t, a is the nucleus of the syllable. There's only one syllable, and a is the nucleus. That means the vowel itself is acting as the nucleus. So it is syllabic in quality. So it's called a syllabic vocoid. When you don't have a vowel in a syllable and the consonant acts like the nucleus of the syllable, we call it a contoid, right? For example, we have a word like button. N is a consonant. It's a consonant, but it acts like a nucleus, right? It acts like the nucleus of the syllable. So it is called a syllabic contoid, because here the consonant acts like the nucleus of the vowel. So it has got a syllabic tendency to it, or a syllabic quality to it. So it's called a syllabic contoid, or it's also called a syllabic consonant. Now, when there are consonants in syllables that are merely marginal sounds, they are called non-syllabic contoids. For example, when you have the word pet, in the word pet, a is the nucleus of the syllable. P and t are the marginal elements, or they are the non-syllabic marginal elements. They are consonants, so they are called non-syllabic contoids, right? And then you have two semi-vowels, v and y. V is a voiced bilabial semi-vowel. Y is a voiced palatal semi-vowel. So these two, v and y, they are semi-vowels. They do not function as vowels, but so they are called non-syllabic vocoids. They are called non-syllabic vocoids, right? So that is how we explain vocoids and contoids, right? So this term vocoids and contoids was given this name, or this term was coined by the linguist K.L. Pike. Why did he coin this term? He coined this term because of the tendency of certain sounds that belong to one category to function like those of another category, right? So that is how he gave the name vocoids and contoids. Okay, now what are contoids? Contoids are the other name given to consonants. Vocoids are the other name given to vowels. Now, when do we call them vocoids and contoids? Now, for example, what is a syllabic vocoid? A syllabic vocoid is a vowel in a syllable which acts as the nucleus for any word. Like, for example, you have a word like pin. P-I-N. In that particular syllable or that particular word, it's a monosyllabic word, there's only one syllable. In P-I-N, I is the vowel, it is the nucleus. It acts as the nucleus and it has got a syllabic quality to it. So it is called a syllabic vocoid. Right? When you have a word like kettle, K-A-T-L, the L is a consonant, but in that particular syllable, it acts like a nucleus, right? It acts like a nucleus. It's got a syllabic quality to it, so it is called a syllabic contoid. When you have marginal elements, like I talked about pin, right? Pin. So P-N. In pin, P and N are the marginal elements or the consonants. One is a releasing consonant and the other one is an arresting one. P is releasing, N is arresting. And they are marginal elements. They are not the nucleus of the syllable. The nucleus is E. In pin, E is the nucleus. P and N are marginal elements. So they are called, they're not syllabic, so they're called non-syllabic contoids. Then you have w and y. They are semi-vowels. They are semi-vowels, but they do not function as vowels. They function only as consonants. So they are non-syllabic. So they are called non-syllabic vocoids. So this is what we mean by vocoids and contoids. They are a term that are coined by R.L. Pike, K.L. Pike, the linguist, and because of the tendency of the particular category of sounds to function like another category, right? So vowels would function as consonants, consonants would function as vowels. So that is why K.L. Pike named these vowels and consonants vocoids and contoids, right? Now, from that we pass on to something called distribution of vowels and diphthongs. We talked about distribution of consonants. Remember, we talked about the 24 consonants and we talked about consonants like n, j, which do not occur in the initial position, right? We talked about the final r, which is always silent in the final position when the word occurs in isolation. Now we talk about distribution of vowels. Now, oo is a vowel that does not usually occur initially in English words, and even o, the small o, does not occur finally. We do not have a as an ant occurring finally. We do not have a as in cut occurring finally. We don't have a as in a as in egg occurring finally, right? And among the 8 diphthongs that we have, we do not have ua occurring initially. So this is how the vowels and diphthongs are distributed. O never occurs initially, right? O, a, never occur word finally. Even in diphthongs, the diphthong ua does not occur initially. So these are this is regarding the distribution of vowels and diphthongs. Now we come to a very, very important topic which is called linking r and intrusive r. Linking r and intrusive r. Now listen very carefully. We learned in the last class that when you have a word ending with the letter R spoken in isolation, the r is always silent. For example, CAR is car, BUTTER is butter, MOTHER is mother, LETTER is letter, right? We have spoken about words in isolation, single words, car, letter, mother, dinner, beggar. So all these words are spoken in isolation, and when you have words spoken in isolation, the final r is always silent. But now the most important thing, when you have these words in sentences or in connected speech means sentences. In connected speech, when you have a word ending with the letter R followed by another word that begins with a vowel sound, then the r is pronounced. In connected speech, when you have a word ending with the letter R followed by a word that begins with a vowel sound, then the r is pronounced. This is not in isolation, in connected speech. That means in sentences. For example, when you have a sentence like my CARIS red. My car is red. Here CAR is followed by is. Is a word that begins with a vowel sound. So when in connected speech, when you have a word ending with the letter r followed by a word that begins with a vowel sound, then the R is pronounced. My car is red. My mother is baking a cake. My mother was baking a cake. That means the mother is not mother, because there M-O-T-H-E-R is followed by W. W is a consonant sound, right? When you have something followed, when you have a word ending in R followed by a vowel sound, then the R is pronounced. So the R acts as a link between the words to ease pronunciation. That is why it's called a linking R, right? When you say, my car is red, right? My brother is coming home tomorrow. This letter is mine. This letter is mine, right? So when you have a word ending with the letter R, followed by a word beginning with a vowel sound in connected speech, the R is pronounced, and the R acts as a link between the words to ease pronunciation, and that is why it's called a linking R or a linking R or a linking R, right? So when you get a question like, what is a linking R? This is what you write in connected speech. When you have a word ending with the letter R followed by a word that begins with a vowel sound, the R is pronounced, and the R acts as a link to ease pronunciation. So that is linking R. One more thing, what is intrusive R? What is intrusive R? Intrusive, intrude. That word itself means getting in where you're not wanted. Intruding into something means going into something where you're not needed, right? Intruder. Whom do we call an intruder? Intruder is a thief, a person who intrudes, a person who comes where he or she is not required, where he or she is not wanted. So intrusive R, as the name suggests, it comes where it is not needed. Now, this is very specific in received pronunciation. When you have English people or English men or women speaking, they always use this intrusive R, which we don't usually see in Indian English, right? Now, what is intrusive R? In connected speech, when you have a word ending with a vowel sound followed by a word beginning with a vowel sound, there's a R that intrudes in between. This happens only in connected speech, right? When you have a word ending with a vowel sound followed by another word that begins with a vowel sound, a R intrudes in between. A R is not needed, it's not at all there. For example, when you have a sentence like ASIA, Asia, and Africa. See, Asia is a word that ends with a vowel sound. And is another word that begins with a vowel sound. So what happens? So you have Asia and Africa are two different continents. So what happens when you have Asia followed by and a R intrudes? So an English person, an English man or a Britisher would say Asia and Africa. Asia and Africa neighbors. Africa are, see, Africa, we would say Asia and Africa are neighbors. But the British man or woman would say Asia and Africa neighbors. That's how they would speak. Asia and Africa neighbors. Africa neighbors. Africa are. See, again, it is a word that is ending with a vowel sound followed by a word beginning with a vowel sound. So this is intrusive R. The R is not needed there, but it intrudes. It just comes in where it is not needed. So we have Asia and Africa neighbors. Then you have, we say, I stand in awe of you. We would say, I stand in awe of you. But a British man or a British woman would say, I stand in awe of you. Or the after awe, of again starts with a vowel sound. So they will bring in R. So they would say, I stand in awe of you, right? Hosanna in the highest. We say Hosanna in the highest, right? Hosanna in the highest, but they would say Hosanna in the highest. So that is intrusive ra. A ra intruding where it is not needed. A ra coming in where it is not wanted, where it is not even there. But that is intrusive. That's why it's called intrusive ra. So I hope linking ra and intrusive ra are clear to you. So linking ra is in connected speech when you have a word ending with this letter ra followed by a word beginning with a consonant sound. Then the ra is pronounced. It is a link to is the pronunciation. And intrusive ra is again in connected speech when you have a word ending with a vowel sound followed by a word that begins with another vowel sound. The ra intrudes where it is not needed. So we say Hosanna in the highest. Asia or India and Asia and Africa are continents. Asia and Africa continents, right? So that is intrusive, which is not very much seen in Indian speak, because we don't have the concept of intrusive in our mother tongue, because we talk about mother tongue interference and influence, so we don't have this interference of, we don't have the inclusion of ra in our mother tongue, so we're not very much used to it. But if you really need to receive pronunciation, and if you're speaking to a British man, they would expect you to put in intrusive ra's and linking ra's. So that is linking ra for you. We learned about linking ra, we learned about vocoids and contoids, and we also learned about distribution of vowels and diphthongs. So next class we will do something called suprasegmentals. Right? Suprasegmentals would be the features that are superimposed on syllables, and they are the features which are known as suprasegmentals. The features which are superimposed on syllables. So you have three suprasegmental elements. You have stress, rhythm, intonation. We'll learn about that in the next class. I hope this is clear to you, with which we learned today: vocoids, contoids, linking ra, intrusive ra, and also distribution of vowels and diphthongs. Any questions or any doubts?